whoa, everybody. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's real vile time. That's right, babies. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wacky. It's going to be crazy because the feature presentation tonight is 2024's Maxxxine. And of course, you get the G to the E to the R to the M. The T stands for the, but you already knew that. And we're about to rip it up in the modern way. So you know it's got to be Mr. Germ Ripper. And we got the Prime Minister, the Sinister, Mr. Ruthless Chris. Ruthless Chris, tell these people what's really going on.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And of course, we got the Tower of the Hour, the Princess of Power, Miss Killer Kelli Miller. Killer Kelli Miller, tell these people what's really going on, baby doll. Well, all right. Get that hair barrette. You got it going on. You're making it work. And I appreciate that. You got to comb your hair sometimes. Well, feature presentation for tonight's episode is we're going to be talking about the third movie in the X trilogy by Ty West. It is Maxxxine, and oh boy, we don't usually cover too many movies that are still in the theater. So this is exciting. It's new. It's fresh for 86, fresh for 2024. I am with it. I hope you're with it because we're about to do this. Well. Anyways, what have you been up to, Chris?
It's been an eventful couple weeks. Kelli and I went and saw Maxxxine. We also went and saw Longlegs. I won't go into too much detail with Longlegs to see it's pretty divisive with people, but I myself, and I know Kelli, very much enjoyed it. Just go in with tempered expectations, and I think you'll very much enjoy it. I think Oz Perkins did a really good job. Aside from that, watch some movies. We're getting all geared up to come visit you out there in Chicago. By the time you're hearing this, we'll be one day away from Scum of the Earth at Berwyn Eagles, and all of us will be hanging out together. Aside from Kelli, she's staying behind on this trip. I believe she's got some things going on around the house she needs to take care of. So, but yeah, we're gearing up to come see you. Yeah.
Ooh la la, say la vie. It's going to be a good time for you and a good time for me. I can't wait to see everybody from Ruthless Pro. Who do you think's going to want to do some quick donut critiques with Mr. Germ Ripper? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Brutus Dillon, maybe Bull Bronson. There are a couple of cutie pies.
I'd have a feeling that's who you're going to go for.
Well, Remington Roar. I've known Remington Roar for a few years now lately, and I haven't done one with him. I know, hey, there, Mr. Man Behind the Curtain, Peapod has hit me up. Peapod wants to do a quick donut critique. I think we got to do a quick donut critique, Peapod.
I definitely want to do a quick donut critique. I've been wanting to do it since I first met you, Germ, so I want in.
Well, holy guacamole, I think that's got to be what's really going on then, baby dolls. Anybody know if Dimension X, where Killer Kelli is swifted off to, she'll be back anytime soon? Do we have any update on that?
I think she's trying to get the flux capacitor working. She's gonna hit it with a hammer. Maybe pour some new gasoline in it, or get the gerbil running on the wheel or something. But we'll move on without her. So
yeah, she's been having some technical difficulties since we started. So hopefully she pops in here soon.
Pops in. We gotta get Kelli back from Dimension X. But speaking of X, we gotta talk about some movies we watched before we get to our feature presentation of Maxxxine. Ruthless Chris, paging Ruthless Chris, would you like to start off by talking about a movie you've watched?
Sure. So I watched Wes Craven Presents Mindripper from 1995, directed by Joe Gayton, starring Lance Henriksen. This was pretty okay. It was fun for what it was. Kind of like a hybrid killer mad scientist movie. Very cheesy acting and special effects. The killer kind of turns into like a mosquito man. What you have is like an underground bunker where they're doing genetic research on what's going to make superhuman weapons, that old chestnut that's never been done before in a movie. And of course, everyone's trapped in there, and the thing gets, or the weaponized human gets loose, and, all hell ensues. He eventually loses all his hair, and his head gets all lumpy, and he has, like, this fucking, like, thorn that comes out of his mouth where he sucks the goo out of you with, which was kind of fun and funny. There's some, like, good eye poke scenes. The gore is a little fun. I mean, this is, like, pretty much your average 90s, like, no-budget cheese. There's nothing really going for it besides maybe Lance Henriksen and then some cool little creature parts here and there, but it's nothing I would, like, really go out of my way to see. With that being said, it was, like, pretty middle of the ground. I give it, like, 2.5 stars. I didn't regret watching it. I had fun with it, but at the same time, I was just like, meh, when it was over,
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm trying to look it up, see if I remember, like, the poster art, because I'm sure it was probably in the video stores at the time, but I do not remember the poster art. I don't remember the name at all. Like, nothing about this rings a bell, and especially Clive Barker Presents, or not Clive Barker, Wes Craven Presents, should have stuck out to me, because I was, always been a big Wes Craven fan, and then Lance Henriksen, Giovanni Ribisi. It's a decent cast.
So I think the reason it's Wes Craven Presents is when I'm looking at the writer, it says Jonathan Craven. So this might be like a bit of a nepotism thing. It might be like a brother or a relative, because I'm pretty sure Craven isn't just like a like, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's Wes Craven Presents something, maybe a Jonathan Craven. So maybe he was trying to give his brother a leg up. I don't know.
Fair enough. Absolutely. That happens sometimes to more established artists will lend their name to a project to try and give it a little bit more credibility. And why not? But you give it 2.5 stars. Where would you say Mindripper is streaming? If anybody has any interest about a guy with a thorn that comes out of his mouth and sucks people's goo.
It's on this little program we never talk about ever on this program, which is called Tubi, of course.
Tubi, of course.
Sponsor us, Tubi.
Sponsor us, Tubi. But yeah, it looks like it's probably streaming on most of the free platforms: Plex, Freevee, Pluto, Roku. But Tubi, we are fans of Tubi, so can't go wrong with that. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, there we go. We're back. Well, that sounds exciting. I've never seen Mindripper, but yeah, I like what you said about it. 2.5 stars, maybe one day. But on that note,
it's not awful. It's just it is what it is.
It is what it is, right? It's a movie.
It's a movie, all right.
There's a movie.
There's an end and things happen.
There's one thing I can say about Mindripper. It's a movie.
It's a movie. It definitely is. It's more of a movie than that 1980s Scream movie we watched.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that didn't sound like a good one. Oh, my goodness gracious gravy. Well, to keep this train rolling, keep this terror train rolling down the tracks, I'm going to talk about a movie that I watched before we get to the brand new 2024's Maxxxine Ty West film. I watched a movie that came out a couple years ago, 2022's House of Darkness. Says it's streaming on Hulu, so I'm sure that's where I watched it. It's directed by Neil LaBute and written by Neil LaBute, and it's about Hap, who's the man, and he's played by Justin Long. It's a very small cast. Offers Mina a ride home with ulterior motives, but his night takes a turn when he learns she lives in a creepy American castle, and the shadowy figures in the corridors make it clear that he isn't welcome. Now, you could tell that it's an independent film and it's made with a low budget, and they make their best out of limited resources. There's basically one set, and there's 3 characters. I think it was 3, maybe 4 in the whole movie. And, but they managed to keep a great sense of dread a great sense of tension throughout the film, and it is creepy. It's creepy, it's crawly, it's definitely a different type of film, and I appreciate it for that. You're not really sure if it's ghost or what, and then as the movie progresses and it turns out to be more of like a almost a rape revenge movie. It's really captivating that House of Darkness is able to achieve so much with so little, and I appreciate that. I gave House of Darkness 3.5 stars. Have you guys seen House of Darkness?
I have not. I know Kelly's watched it. Kelly, you have no audio again. She's back, but still having technical difficulties. I have not watched it. I do enjoy Justin Long when he pops up in horror movies. I really enjoyed him in Barbarian, even though there was nothing redeemable about his character. I think he doesn't mind going for it in a horror movie, so I definitely have to check this out. But I have not seen it. I know Kelly's watched it, though, because she has talked about it on this podcast before.
Well, she's giving a thumbs up, even though she doesn't have audio.
Kelly, can you hand signal us how many stars you would give House of Darkness? Three stars for House of Darkness.
It says 3 stars. Well, that's good. I give it 3.5 stars. I would keep this train rolling if we could get Kelly's audio working. It's her turn to talk about a movie that she's watched, but it doesn't look like her audio is working yet. We might just have to catch up. Oh, there she is.
Oh. Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
Hello.
Yes. Killer Kelly Miller is in the house. Hey, could you talk about a movie that you've watched, baby?
I do want to comment on. I since I'm late to class here. I missed what movie we were talking about. When you said House of Darkness, I was like, is that the one with Justin Long? Yes, it is. I did enjoy that movie. I thought it was funny. It was comical in a lot of ways, and it was It kind of reminded me of some Hammer horror, but on a little bit more of a comedic level. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. 3.5, 3.5 for me. But yes, I am here to talk about movies. So
cool. Well, please, what movie have you watched recently that you would like to talk about?
I'm a big Elijah Wood fan, and I remember watching this around when it came out, but I didn't remember it at all. And I seen that it was on. This is Open Windows from 2014.
Oh God.
Yeah. Directed by Nacho Vigalondo. Nacho Vigalondo. I think I did that one right, actually. Vigalondo.
Doubt it.
I probably did. But yeah, this one's starring Elijah Wood and Sasha Grey. Elijah Wood plays Nick. He's obsessed with Jill. It's his favorite movie star, and he thinks he won some sort of cool contest where he gets to meet her and shit. And then apparently that wasn't real, and he gets this phone call from some dude that the whole story's taking place. This came out the same year as Unfriended, although I believe Unfriended came out first. And both of these movies, what they have in common is they're all told through the windows on a screen. And they got really creative with it. They did it through Skype calls, through Instant Messenger, through there was different systems, that they used on there. But anyway, he's obsessed with this actress, and he gets a call from this guy after he finds out that he's not going to meet her, that some shit happened, and the guy blames her. He's like, it's her fault, He's like, but hey, I got access to her room. You can spy on her and all this shit. And then somehow it turns from that. It's kind of Hitchcockian in the way it builds up, I guess. But then at the end, it just kind of, it's like they tried to shove too much fucking shit in there. Yeah, he gets caught into this cat and mouse game with this hacker. I don't know. It's Hitchcockian with hackers. It's okay, and I normally wouldn't call it a horror movie. This reminded me a lot more of a thriller. But at the same time, there are some heavy giallo elements in this, the shiny knife scenes with the gloved hand. Spying on a beautiful woman, even though it might be through internet windows and shit, the bright colors for one. So you can see definitely heavy giallo influence in this, but it was I don't know. I think if it wouldn't have fell apart at the end, I would have gave it a higher score. But I just gave it like a 3. Have you guys seen this one?
Yeah, I've seen it. I didn't like it very much. I thought
I
it was
like
dumb.
Elijah Wood. Maybe that's why I'm biased, but yeah.
I like Elijah Wood too. I really do. I enjoy him as an actor. I think he does a great job. I think he's one of the few examples of a child star that doesn't go awry when they grow older. I think he is very talented. I love what he does in the world of horror.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that being said, I thought this movie was just kind of silly. The hacking shit was dumb. A lot of the motivations on why shit happens was dumb.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Some of the shit they were doing with computers, like, still to this day, you can't fucking do. It's like, okay. You know?
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of it was dumb. Like, a lot of it made no sense. I commend them for what they tried to do. I just thought it came off as, like, really, really half-baked and not well thought out. I think it thought it was very clever, and I think that annoyed me a little bit. With that being said, I give it 2 stars.
Yeah. 3
I have never seen Open Windows. Nacho Vigalondo. The name sounds familiar, at least the first name of Nacho. Has he done anything else like, Time Crimes? Claude, I think I've seen that one. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting director, writer, but, we got 3 stars, we got 2 stars. And where did you watch this one?
Was it Prime? It says it's on Crackle. Hold on. What did I watch this? I want to say Tubi or something.
Tubi, of course.
It might be Freevee. It might be Tubi. One of the free ones, I believe.
It's on Tubi.
Is it?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, let's keep this train chugging along so we can get to 2024's Ty West directed Maxxxine. But in the meantime, hey, Ruthless Chris, I hear you might have a movie you want to talk about that you watched recently?
Yeah, the next one I literally just got done watching. It's called Storm Warning from 2007. Directed by Jamie Blanks. Jamie Blanks is most known for making Valentine and Urban Legend. So it comes very much from that ilk, but this is an Australian kind of contained horror story. What you have is a couple that goes out on a boating trip. They get caught in a storm. They go to take refuge in this house, and it's full of like a deranged, murderous family that wants to torture and kill them. And there's nowhere they could go because they're on this island that the boat's kind of stranded on, and people are trying to rape and kill them. It definitely gives off some like Wolf Creek vibes. It feels a little low budget because I think there's 5 people total in this movie. There's the 3 people in the family and the 2 that washed up on the island. I don't think there's anyone else in this movie that I can recall. It is extremely gory. It gets real gnarly on the kills. I mean, like it's like it almost feels like they were trying to figure out how they can make the kills as over the top as possible, and then filled in the blanks around it. There's a lot of essay stuff that can get very uncomfortable at times, although it doesn't really fully pan out into that. That being said, I didn't find it very fun to watch. You'd be better off with like a Wolf Creek or something if you want like an Australian outback kind of romp. I thought this one was just kind of gnarly and muddy and kind of boring. I didn't really have a lot of fun with it. I'm not sure I'd recommend it. It's more of like a rainy day thing. But when I looked on Letterboxd, a lot of people's opinions I do value and that very much align with mine gave it kind of high praise. So maybe I just wasn't feeling it. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it today. But I didn't really have that much fun with it. I gave it 2.5.
2.5 stars.
Watched on Tubi.
What was it called again?
Storm Warning.
Storm
2007.
Warning. Yeah. And Tubi, you said?
Yep.
Tubi, of course. Kelly, have you seen Storm Warning?
Don't believe I have. Nope.
Yeah, I don't think I've even heard of it.
No.
Is it a newer film?
It's 2007, and the only reason I ended up watching it was I started watching Urban Legend on one of the streaming services the other day, and then I had to leave for work for my shift on my food truck job. and I wasn't able to finish it. When I came back the next day to watch it, it had been taken down. Like I guess I started it on the last day it was available to stream, and that kind of bummed me out. But when I was looking up what else this guy had done, it was one of those movies. And I had seen that some of my other friends had highly ranked or rated it. And when I was going through, oh, you know what? I didn't watch it on Tubi. I watched it on Plex. So when I was going through Plex, it popped up, and I was like, oh, I remember this from looking up stuff from Urban Legend the other day. I can't watch Urban Legend. I'll give this a fucking try. And it was all right.
All right, fair enough. I'll check it out if that sounds like your type of gig. If not, skip it because Chris watched it for you. In the meantime, before we get to Maxxxine with XXX Maxxxine, I'm going to talk about another film. It is 2020's weirdo vampire comedy horror movie. It is The Boys from County Hell. It's about a crew of hardy road workers led by bickering father and son must survive the night when they accidentally awaken an ancient Irish vampire. This is a wild movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Wore its influences on its sleeve, I felt. To me, it was very much like 30 Days of Night, because the vampires are very brutal, they're very hard to kill, and they don't follow the traditional sort of mythos about vampires. But the rest of it seemed very much like the same comedy of Shaun of the Dead. So it's like Shaun of the Dead meets 30 Days of Night. And, both of those things are top rated with me. Actually, Shaun of the Dead is probably one of my favorite zombie movies ever, to be honest. I just think that's a lot of fun. And this is a lot of fun, and I like movies that take place in Ireland. So, I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Boys from County Hell yet, you should do so. It's on AMC Plus, and you can rent it on Prime Video. I gave it 3.5 stars. Have either of you seen Boys from County Hell?
I have not. I've almost watched it a few times. I've been curious about it, but never really pulled the trigger on it. But with what you've been saying, I'll check it out. I do really enjoy 30 Days of Night. That's a personal favorite of mine. So if it's in that vein, then I'll probably most likely like it.
Kelly, have you seen it?
No, I don't believe I have.
Okay.
I've definitely passed it up as a suggested movie. And I'm with Chris. I like 30 Days a Night. I should check it out. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, on that note, though, what rhymes with killer? It's Miller, and her first name was Kelly. So Kelly Miller, killer, Melly, killer, boop, 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 killer, Kelly Miller. What you watch, baby?
This next one, I didn't completely read. I just kind of overlooked it, and I thought it said directed by Wes Craven, but it said presented by Wes Craven.
Is it Mindripper?
No, it is They. 2002's, starring Ethan Embry. I watched this on Amazon Max, and it was just all right. It is actually directed by Robert Harmon, who did The Hitcher. That was the only other one that I recognize that he's done. But basically, there's a movie about monsters in the dark. When you're a little kid and there's like monsters under your bed and monsters in your closet and monsters in the dark. Well, it starts out with a little kid and, he thinks there's monsters in his closet and his mom comes in and checks and sure as shit, he gets dragged under the bed. Years later, it cuts to Julia. She's older, she's living her life, she's doing well in life, and she's contacted by her old friend Paul, which I believe was the kid in the beginning. And, he's all disheveled. He meets her at a diner. She's got some shit going on. She leaves her guy because Paul sounded really distressed on the phone. She's like, I gotta fucking go help Paul, So she goes to this diner and meets Paul, and he's all disheveled and talking about they're back. Oh, they're back. You don't remember when we were kids? I'm fucking marked. And he's got this, mark on his arm. So, clearly there's some shit going on. And then he, unalives himself right there in the fucking, Well, at the funeral and shit, she meets some of his roommates, and they're like, "Yeah, it's back," and she starts getting these weird visions. So basically, this is a monster movie about the things that scare you when you're a kid in the dark, but they're real. They're real. But yeah, these things cut out. They're coming because the electric gets all flickery and babies start screaming.
Babies start screaming?
Yeah, babies cry.
Yeah, fuck them kids. That's your motto, right?
Babies consensus.
Fuck them kids.
So, Killer Kelly, what did you feel about They?
I give it a 2.5. It was just mediocre. It wasn't a Wes Craven movie, which is why I wanted to watch it. Ethan Embry was the paranoid roommate of the boy, Paul. Paul. Yeah.
Well, what streaming service did you watch this on?
This is on Max.
Max. Very, very cool. I remember seeing this when it first came out in the theater, and the only reason we went to go see it is because my ex saw Wes Craven's name on it, and when we got there and discovered that it was, once again, just presented by or produced by, whatever the case may be, it was a little disappointing from what I remember.
Yeah.
And I think similar to you, I would give it 2.5 stars from what I remember.
Yeah.
Chris, have you seen Wes Craven Presents They?
I have not. I've always been curious about it, and in all honesty, like the way she describes it doesn't sound like a bad movie. But I looked it up. Why she was talking about it, and like literally everyone I know that's watched it gave it like a 1.5 stars.
It's not terrible. It's watchable, If you got Max, you don't know what else to watch. It's predictable and it's watchable. The thing comes back, it starts picking them all up. They've all got the mark, It's
very similar to a million other movies.
Yeah.
But it's a movie. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's a movie.
Got monsters.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah. Let's keep this train a chugging along the terror tracks. And Ruthless Chris, what you got next for us, baby?
So the last one I was going to talk about, I'm just going to skip altogether. It was such a pile of shit that I don't even really want to get into. It was a movie called Monster from like 2001. It was a found footage movie. I was kind of trying to be Cloverfield with no monster, and it was just bad acting. So with that, I am going to briefly talk spoiler-free and very vaguely about Long Legs, because Kelly and I did go and see that the other day.
Yeah,
and it is. Huh?
Go on.
I'll keep it very spoiler-free. I'll keep it very vague. I see a lot of people really get it, and a lot of people are really like, that sucked. This kind of is more of a throwback to police procedurals of the 90s, like stuff like Silence of the Lambs and Seven. Go in it with that kind of attitude as opposed to you're going to be seeing this super scary serial killer flick. I mean, it has those moments. One of the great things about this film is the way it's shot and the amount of dread that they inject in almost every scene. Like, it's done in wide-angle lenses, and there's always like door frames behind people where you expect like something crazy to happen, or like they pack a lot more in the scenes with them just what it's focused on, which always makes you think that something terrible is going to happen at like literally any second of this film. It's beautifully shot. A lot of people are talking about Nicolas Cage's performance in this. I thought it was unbelievably unhinged. I mean, if you want to talk about them letting Nick Cage go full Nick Cage, this is the fucking movie. It's pretty bananas what he did in this movie, because it could have really fucking backfired if he didn't pull it off right. Like, it came off as like the silliest fucking thing ever. It's definitely not what you expect it to be. Just going with the hype machine for this thing has been huge. It was the movie I was looking forward to the most this year, along with Maxxxine. I had been following all the marketing. I thought all the marketing of this thing was really fantastic. And to me, it lived up to it. I mean, by the time the credits rolled, my fucking jaw was on the floor. I literally was just staring at the screen, like blinking a couple times, like, what the fuck? Yeah. And I left, like, the best kind of movies in my eyes are the ones that, like, won't leave you when you're done with it. Like, you got to keep thinking about it and like toying over every scene and like, well, did this mean this? And this, like, I remember this happened earlier, so then that was to this, you know. And I mean, it's really just been rolling in the back of my brain ever since I saw it, and I plan on going, hopefully, to see it again before it's out of theaters. Hopefully, because you know we got Chicago coming up and everything else. Hopefully, I have time because now I got a Cleveland show coming up now too, and then King of the Kill. So hopefully, I get back and see it because I do think it's one of those things that definitely benefits from seeing in theaters. With that being said, I think Osborne Perkins is a great new voice in horror. This isn't the first movie he's knocked out of the park. I really enjoyed The Blackcoat's Daughter, which he made, and Gretel and Hansel, which he made. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. He's the son of Anthony Perkins from Psycho himself. So really looking forward to whatever this guy does next. Really give this thing a shot. Just don't go into it believing the hype of it's the scariest movie of a decade or anything like that, because it's not going to live up to that. What it is going to be a really awesome, mind-bending serial killer police procedural. With that, I gave it a full 5 stars, and I thought it is a modern masterpiece.
Very, very cool. Killer Kelly Miller, you watched it with Mr. Ruthless Chris. What is your opinion on Longlegs?
I think everything that Chris said is pretty fucking accurate. I give it a 4.5. It's pretty shocking in a lot of parts, but not shocking in the way you would expect it when it came. I, like Chris said as well, I really liked a lot of the shit they were doing in the background, and I think seeing that in the theater definitely made it better. I don't know if it'll have the same effect once I watch it on a smaller screen. But, yeah, dude, Nick Cage's performance could have been hit or miss, and he fucking hit it out of the park. He was so creepy and unhinged, and just like, there was times I was just like, holy shit, you know, like, and I have walked away from the theater thinking about it. I've been thinking about it ever since I watched it. I do want to go back into the theater and watch it again before it leaves. Yeah, that one definitely made an impact on me, and it will be at the top of my list by the end of the year. For sure. Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it yet, but I am excited to see it. Yeah, like Chris said, it's definitely one of the most anticipated films of this year, and definitely one of the most anticipated films that I've been looking forward to. So yeah, definitely excited to check it out. And 5 stars from Chris, 4.5 from Kelly. Longlegs is still in the theater, so check it out if you get a chance to. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. But to keep this train a chugging along terror tracks so we can get to Maxxxine, I'm going to talk about a movie that I watched recently. It is a brand new one from one of my favorite independent directors and filmmakers right now, Mr. Chad Farron. It is H.P. Lovecraft's The Old Ones. This just came to Tubi, and it is about a sea captain named Russell Marsh. He was possessed by an ancient entity for 93 years, committing horrific acts for a cult. Now free, he seeks to travel back in time to undo his dark deeds, while the cult vows to eliminate him. I did like this a lot, and this thing you've got to remember about Chad's movies is that they are independent. They're truly independent. They are low-budget films, and if you're not going in it with that realization, you might be like, what the hell is this garbage? But you also have to understand that this is a love letter to H.P. Lovecraft. I thought that if you are a fan of H.P. Lovecraft's films, you will thoroughly enjoy this, and if you are a fan of micro-budget films, you will enjoy this. Some of the monsters look like they came straight out of Troll 2, but that's okay. I didn't mind. I didn't mind the cheesy effects. I didn't mind some of the cheesy wardrobe. I appreciated big time that a lot of the script, a lot of the verbiage came directly out of H.P. Lovecraft books. And once again, I think that you're not going to appreciate this unless you are a fan of the writings and if you're not a fan of the stories, and you can go, oh wow, I'm glad they actually took the time to recognize this or that. Like any critic of H.P. Lovecraft is going to say, oh, he's racist, and they actually sort of like they actually look at that aspect in this movie. They don't, directly address it, but they do address it, and I kind of loved it. I kind of loved that they did that. If this movie had a bigger budget, if it was like a major motion picture, I would have definitely given it 5 stars. For me, because I love H.P. Lovecraft movies. I love cosmic horror, all that weird stuff, and it's funny. It's a funny movie. But since it is a micro budget film and it's got a few down points because it doesn't have the budget to pull off what it's going for, I gave it 3.5 stars. But it's brand new on Tubi, and I've been looking forward to this one for a while. And I've been a fan of Chad Farron's ever since 2016's Parasites came out. So if you're a fan of Lovecraft and you're a fan of micro budget films, I recommend the old ones. Have you guys heard of this one?
I almost watched it the other day. H.P. Lovecraft is right by wheelhouse. I've read all his works. I got the Necronomicon here. A lot of cosmic horror is like really, really my jam. I watched the preview and it looked really interesting. It looked right up my alley. I don't know why I didn't end up watching it, but I definitely plan on checking it out ASAP. So you'll probably actually hear me talk about it next episode.
Cool. Killer Kelly, what you think?
I have not seen this one. But it's another one that I seen suggested to me that I would like to check out.
Very cool. But yeah, if you get a chance, it's streaming on Tubi for free. I give it 3.5 stars, and that's H.P. Lovecraft's The Old Ones. We got one last movie for Killer Kelly Miller to talk about before we get to 2024's Maxxxine. Killer Kelly Miller, tell these people what you've been watching, baby.
Well, I've been kind of revisiting some of the Masters of Horror collection. And I was going to talk about John Carpenter's Cigarette Burn. Yeah, this was a good one. This one's starring Norman Reedus, which you know from, Boondock Saints and The Walking Dead. His name's Kirby. He's a theater owner. And somebody comes to him to find this allegedly cursed and what's the word I'm looking for? Murderous. It's a cursed thing that makes people, want to kill people, not just murder people, but kind of go insane. It's this old film that he's been looking for. So as he's looking for this movie, he starts seeing these rings, and he keeps getting these warnings from people as he's getting closer to the movie. They're like, hey, you shouldn't be fucking with this movie. It's seriously cursed. You don't even have to watch it for it to touch you, And he keeps seeing these cigarette burns. If you know anything about old film, weren't the cigarette burns to mark certain parts of the reel?
It's where you're supposed to switch the reels from one reel to the other in the movie theater.
Right. Yep. So he starts seeing these cigarette burns, but every time he would, something terrible would start happening. There's a pattern. I like this. This was only an hour long, so that's nice if you're looking for something quick and short, but it's still a full length movie at the same time. It feels well, not full length, but a full story. It gives you the feel of a full movie without being a 90-minute movie. But I really enjoy this. It's very much John Carpenter. What you like about John Carpenter movies? It's got cool music. I don't know if he did do the score in this. It sounded like him. I'd imagine he did.
He did.
Yeah. But yeah, I give this 3.5. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Chris, have you seen Cigarette Burns?
Well, quite a few times, actually. I think it's one of John Carpenter's better 90s or 2000s. It's a lot better than The Ward and Ghosts of Mars and shit. It's actually really creepy. It's got Udo Kier, which I always love seeing him pop up and stuff. And I think the two movies that John Carpenter made for the Masters of Horror series were pretty fantastic and kind of overlooked and forgotten. I think Cigarette Burns was the better of the two. The other one being Pro Life with Ron Perlman. I highly recommend it. I think it was one of my more favorite from the series. Although the series, go back and revisit it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But yeah, I would give it 4 out of 5. I think it's really good.
Yeah. These are the Masters of Horror. They're on Plex, they're on Roku, they're on all of them. So there's really no excuse to not dive into these, especially if they're not exactly. Yeah, especially if you like anthologies, and it is from like horror's like best well-known directors. So like, if you haven't seen these, definitely check out Masters of Horror. They're all great. Well, not all great, but they're all pretty good.
Yeah, some of them are kind of bad, but most of them are pretty
definitely
good.
worth a watch. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think Cigarette Burns is like one of those things that ages like a fine wine. I've definitely appreciated it more later on, and I've seen like a lot of films in the past few years have been influenced greatly by that sort of cursed film feel that I don't think I'd seen previous to that. Things like Interim, I think it was called, with the
Antrim,
cursed film. And there's been others recently. What was it?
Was it Censor?
No, but there was Censor kind of.
Series
But
of Netflix.
there was a kids movie, Zombie. Was it Zombie Town? I think it was called, where there was a cursed film. Dan Aykroyd's in it. I could only hope that it was inspired by Cigarette Burns, but it's definitely something that I think has aged well with time, and I think it's really well done. Definitely worth it checking out. I'd give Cigarette Burns 3 stars. And on that note, let's get on to our feature presentation. Pulling into Spoiler Town. It's Maxxxine 2024. Directed and written by Ty West. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I love this movie. I just watched it yesterday.
And now for our feature presentation.
And it's amazing. It's an amazing film. If you're not familiar with Maxxxine, spelled with 3 X's, it is the final film in the X trilogy by Ty West, and it is set in 1980s Hollywood. Adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minks, played by Mia Goth, finally gets her big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. Holy guacamole. I love this movie. Who wants to talk about this first while I gather my thoughts? Chris?
I'll go ahead. I had high expectations going into this. I think everyone did. Pearl and X really knocked it out of the park. The trailer going into this thing looked fantastic. It definitely hit a giallo and a lot of like what I would describe as the sleaze movies of the 80s and early 90s. Almost lean into the sex and grossness and underbellies and all that. Mia Goth, not only through X and Pearl, but through stuff like Infinity Pool and all that, has really got her hooks in me as a great actress who could really dive into these roles and do these really interesting things and be extremely believable about it and like build out a whole character. And I thought this was no exception. It definitely didn't go the way I thought it was going to be. I think the horror pretty much is just intermittent throughout and then kind of comes up mostly at the end. There's the giallo style kills with the gloves and the knife and but that seems like more like background what's going on in the main story, and what I thought was more interesting is where through Pearl and X they built her as this woman who's like taking control of her own existence and fighting back and all that, and I believe the Kevin Bacon character was the pushback on that and really like force her to kind of even go more into that. I really think this is some of Kevin Bacon's best work in a while. You know, he really did a good job as that sleazy, swarmy. He almost, you know what he almost reminded me? He almost reminded me of Kevin Dillon in There's Something About Mary. Like his detective, or like everything about him was just kind of sleazy and swarmy and like off putting, like, but it like totally like was comfortable in it and relished in it. You have something to say, Kelly?
Kind of like you know when you said Matt Dillon, not something about Mary, but
Matt Dillon.
Road Store Cowboy. It's kind of what I thought of. Yeah. No. Anyway, go on.
With that being said, the one thing I think they didn't lean into hard enough was the sleaze of it. You know, there was the ball crushing scene and all that, but like, you know, like it felt like for something that was leaning into like early '80s sleaze and sexploitation and all that, there wasn't a lot of like sexploitation. You know,
No.
and you know there was like the brutality of kills and stuff, but I think that it could have went a little harder in it, especially with how hard X and Pearl went. That also being said, I think they knocked it out of the park with the look of this thing. You know, it feels like you're watching an '80s VHS. And I thought that was really cool to see on the big screen because, like, it was grainy and it was washed out. And I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but they recreated some of the shots that they did in previous movies in this one, and the X and Pearl. Yeah. Which I thought was really cool, like homage. I wasn't expecting to go full religious horror at the end, which was cool. Not necessarily what I expected or maybe even wanted, but I was happy when it did. So yeah, those are my feelings on it. If anyone else wants to talk about it.
Yeah, talking about Kevin Bacon's character, I thought he did a great job as well. And I think it's really interesting that his white suit and bandaged nose mirrored Jack Nicholson's appearance in 1974's Chinatown. I thought that was really interesting, and how that this Maxxxine captures 80s exploitation and sleaze to a T. It is Italian giallo, and it is American exploitation movies to a T. Like, if you can take those two genres and mix them and come out with, you know, an A24 film, that is Maxxxine. And I am a huge fan of 80s exploitation films. So, I mean, when they made all these nods to other movies and to other scenes to the movies in here, you know, when she keeps saying that line of I will not accept a life that I do not deserve, you know, that ties them all together. And you know, there's so many great moments that you're like, oh shit, you know, everything from when she's leaving the tryout for the movie, and you know, there is that sign outside, do you have the X Factor, something to that effect, and you know, that was also tied into the other two movies. But then, you know, the characters are straight out of all the characters, you know, the gay black video clerk, skateboarder, punk rocker, metalhead, you know, that seems like something you'd see in like a Friday the 13th movie, or, you know, all the other female porn stars, or the female film director seems very Italian, you know, and then to incorporate the set from Psycho, I thought was a great nod to Psycho, of course, and then talking about the Night Stalker, so kind of like based in reality a little bit. There's a lot of aspects of this. I really loved the soundtrack, was amazing. You know, it really dug deep into the 80s aesthetic. And like you said, how they made the film quality look like a VHS film, I thought was really smart and really well done. And I think if somebody is not well versed in 80s exploitation films, and I'm not talking just horror, but any sort of 80s exploitation movies, because you've got the action where she's running up the hill and she's chasing after the killer, and then like the weird twists and turns, of course, the hardcore violence of the ball crushing scene, or the shotgun to the head scene. You get the gore and the violence, but then, you know, you get the sleaziness, you get the filthy Hollywood strip. you've got to be well versed in 80s exploitation films. Yeah, and or you're not going to appreciate it. You know, when I was leaving the theater yesterday, there was a group of younger, cinephiles. I'm sure they were considered themselves cinephiles, comparing it to X and to Pearl, and this is the weakest out of the series. I hated that third act. I was like, that third act was ideal if you enjoy 80s sleaze. You would be like, oh my god, that's so smart and so well done. But I couldn't dwell on my resentment for those people. I had to just enjoy it for myself, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. There's nothing about it I would change. I know that you said it could have used some more sexploitation, and I wouldn't disagree, but at the same time, I think that it just stood strong with that sort of female lead. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to lean more into that, it was more of just that strong Maxxine Minx vibe. Killer Kelly, what do you think about Maxxine?
Well, yeah. What can I say that hasn't already been said? Like, you guys have hit on like every note. I really liked how they brought up. They definitely nailed the '80s. Everything from the look to the color schemes to the way the story played out to hitting on '80s culture from pop culture to what was going on in the news with the Richard Ramirez kind of angle. You really thought they were going there for a minute, but they never really did, and I liked that. Yeah, I loved Kevin Bacon's character in this. He kind of gave you a comic relief at one point. The way they did away with him was fucking brutal, and it really showed Maxxine's fucking ruthlessness. Like, she just, I liked how they pulled out little elements from Pearl and X. They made perfect references in them. They even did it in the cover of it, like from the X on the back of her dress to like her pearls that she's got around her neck and stuff like that. But the cool thing about this series, not only this one, but I think any of them, now that I'm thinking about it, they all can make a great standalone film without seeing the others, this one included. Yeah, I fucking love this movie. I think it's definitely another one that's going to be at the top of my list this year. This is pretty neck and neck with last night with the devil, fucking Long Legs, and this right now. But but yeah, I think this is one of the best ones of the year, and if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. You don't need to see X and Pearl first, although I would recommend that as well, just so you can get all of the little references. I loved what they did with like the Psycho House. That was pretty cool. And Old Hollywood. Yeah, man, they nailed exactly what they were going for. With, like you said, with the cinephiles, like, well, I don't know. They even brought together like the whole cult aspect, and the satanic panic, like, shit, at one point. Yeah, they fucking nailed the '80s. As somebody who was born in '84, I might have been a small child, but I have, memories of some of it.
But you watched enough sleazy 80s movies that you could get.
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
And I think that some people just haven't, and I don't think some people really get it like the three of us did. And I remember when I was watching it and seeing Maxine's shirt that says "we" across it, I knew it was a reference to something, but to see that it was a porno magazine from that, I thought it was like a high-end clothing line, but it was actually a porno magazine from that era that ended in 2007. I thought that was really smart, because that's going to be one of those things where if you were alive at the time, it means something, but you can't really think of it until you look it up. And then there's just so many smart nods. I'm glad you brought up the color palette too, Kelly, because that was another sort of like distinct giallo sort of nod, besides the black glove killer, besides the killer being like, it didn't even like really make sense. You're like, oh, who could it be, and then it turns out to be her dad. It's like
so unpredictable, like that is not the direction I seen that one going. Go on, Chris.
I will say they did plant the seeds at the end of X. They showed him at the end of X, ranting on his talk show about the immorality of the world and all this shit. So they actually did plant the seeds at the end of X.
I should have brushed up on that one a little sooner. It's been a while since I watched that one. I kind of want to watch it again now, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was masterful how he's tied all the movies together. And like you said, you can watch them as separate films. You don't need to see them all to really get them. And I also appreciate that too. Because there's like that spot where Molly Bennett talks to Maxxine outside of her trailer. And she says actresses have to stick together, which is very similar to what Mitzi says to Pearl about sisters-in-law sticking together in Pearl. So it's just those little nods to each film that tie them together, and it's so smart and well done. I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad that we did a more recent film this time because it kind of forced me to go to the theater. I don't go to the theater as much as I'd like to, so that's a good thing. I'm gonna say I don't care what the critics say. I give this 5 stars. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, I think this is a 5-star movie. 4.5.
It was 4.5, just because I think they could have leaned a little bit into more of the sexploitation of it because they did that more in Pearl. You know, like she fucked a scarecrow to completion. You know, like they filmed a bunch of porno and X. I think that's the only thing I think that I would have leaned a little bit more into because you are using 80s exploitation and sleaze as the main backdrop, and I think it just kind of pumped the brakes on the sexual aspect of that. But yeah, I give it 4.5. I think it was great.
With nods to movies like Maniac and Fade to Black and like all the other subgenres that we spoke of, giallo and exploitation, and I just think it's brilliant. And so 4.5, 5 stars from us, the whole gang over here at Real Vile. Definitely go see Maxxine. Definitely worth a watch and enjoy it right away while you still can in the theater. And if not, wait till it's streaming. Whatever you gotta do, just watch Maxxine. Keep horror movies in the theater. Anyway, with that being said, what you guys got any last words for all those folks out there in Real Vile land?
Chris, watch something gross, sleazy, and disgusting, and come see us tomorrow in Chicago, or watch us live on IWTV for Scum of the Earth.
Yes,
Kelli, what you got for us, baby?
Watch something sleazy. Yes, Chris already took the words out of my mouth. But yeah, I don't know. Have a good night.
All right, and I would like to say, keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it real vile forever. God bless America and send nudes. Ow!